Memory is a theme used widely by artists. This is a visual examination of memory within my work. What do they look like, and how I came to stylize my video in the form of a memory. When I was 4, my parents moved us from our rental, which sat next to an empty field, used only once a year to host a carnival, to our very own house. This, of course, was exciting for everyone, a family's first home. Located on a corner lot next to the rail which still ran trains at the time, the 1911 three-bedroom Craftsman had been abandoned for a number of years. I remember my first visit before my parents cleaned out and fixed up the old place. Empty beer cans littered the living room, and black ants climbed around a mountain of white sugar in the kitchen sink. A stained glass window illuminated the top of the stairwell, and beyond that was the bedroom that my sister and I would share. In the bedroom stood 2 twin-sized metal bed frames painted white. As I stood there, I wondered about the people who slept in these beds. This was the first time I was aware of a greater force in life. I could feel the history the house held. After some investigating, which was simply asking my parents, I learned that the people who lived in the house were 2 apparently nameless women and 1 man, Mr. Rogers. The only story, or perhaps myth, that surfaced was that Mr. Rogers would often take neighborhood kids to the Lackawanna River, just a few blocks away, to play a game. He would remove his wooden leg and throw it into the river. The first one to bring it back won. Although I consider this to be one of my strongest early memories, it is blurred and fragmented, and seems to be becoming more so over time. So what does this look like? About 10 years ago, I came across this 35mm film at an estate sale. At the time, it appeared to be in decent shape. The film, however, contains nitrate. Nitrate was used as a film base which held the photosensitive emulsion. Nitrate is not only dangerous to the films because it is flammable, it's also found out to be that it naturally decomposes. I became interested in this breakdown of imagery that is caused by the very material that it is made up of, sort of like a poisoned blood. I've watched this film decompose over the years and had just started documenting it by individually photographing each frame. Some of the frames are nearly unreadable. This breakdown, however, can be slowed by temperature and humidity control, but I'm choosing to document the changes that occur naturally. I relate this natural deterioration to our memories in relation to passing time. Another heavy influence on the representation of memory within my work was Guy Madden. Since studying photography in undergrad, I was always attracted to images that were raw or amateurish, and I always thought that old snapshots were close to the way our memories looked, and I often would try to recreate this in the darkroom. I think this is why I am so drawn to Guy Madden. His work revolves around memory, and his film style directly reveals just that. In order to achieve this effect, it's necessary for him to use 8mm and 16mm films. Perhaps I think recollections look like snapshots in home movies because these were the first tools used to capture memories.
Their hatred spilled over into bloody violence. Knives were never far from hand. One was scalped for her beautiful head.
Madden talks about how his editing style reflects his own memory during an interview by Media Funhouse in May 2007 about his film Brand Upon the Brain.
Yeah, I like to think of it as some sort of neurological way of experiencing the movie, that the images sort of just kind of wire their way around your nerves and come at you sometimes in a slightly jumbled order, like the way we experience deja vu, or just. Well, I like to think that what I've made with this new editing style that my editor John Gerdebeck and I have come up with is just another facsimile for the way human memory works. It's just a facsimile, though, just the way the flashback, it's just a facsimile. You don't really flash back and then have a cohesive narrative paces with fades down and continuity and things like that. But I'm fine with flashbacks. But I just thought I would try a different facsimile for this, and I thought I would duplicate the way I remembered, say, a favorite memory from many years ago.
In my work, I try to achieve a look of memory by manipulating the video, causing a breakdown of imagery through various lenses and projections. In this video, the first thing I did was I built an attachment lens out of a lens of an old camera. And what you see here is the first step of the breakdown process. This attachment lens that you see here served a couple different purposes. I wanted to first take the film out of a square format. I thought something like a pinhole seemed to represent memory more than a square would, and I wanted to black out all of the extra information and just keep in what was essential to the narrative and to the memory. The lens also blurred the image slightly, and it fuzzed the edges. I know I can do this digitally, but it's important for me to do all of this work in camera while it's being filmed, because there is something about this authentic dirt and scratches that have accumulated over time on the lens. In addition to breaking down the imagery with a blur, I also thought the lens would create a slight disconnect, just in being that it's one more layer to look through in order to get at the narrative. And that's what I'm trying to do, is create layers that come between the narrative and the viewer, but in a quiet way. Next, I took this video and I projected it onto tracing paper, which gave it this really grainy quality, and it looked a lot like real film, and it became very home movie-ish, and it felt really nostalgic to me. And that felt a lot like a memory. And so while this was back projected on the tracing paper, I refilmed it. Only this time I filmed it using my point and shoot through the eye hole of a Holga camera. And then it looked like this. After seeing the video in a state of looking like a home movie, I decided to use my point and shoot for this second filming. I was thinking about amateur photography and video, and I wanted to record with something that was available to anyone. This also had a positive effect that I hadn't expected. The automatic mode of the camera had a hard time recording the lit image, so any slight movement of the lens shifted the colors. I thought this to be inappropriate to reflect upon our unstable memories. The projection on the tracing paper and the filming through the eye hole of the Holga served not only as additional layers between the narrative and the viewer, but it also degenerated the image quite a bit. You can see that it's more blurry now. The Holga also caused the pinhole to waver within the frame as if it was detached. Although my videos are fiction, I use my memories, such as the childhood memory that I read earlier, as a model. Here I only wanted to address my process, but will soon look deeper into my motivations.